Imagine a future where AI can detect diseases earlier than ever before, where doctors are equipped with advanced tools that enhance their diagnostic abilities, and where healthcare is becoming increasingly personalized. It might sound like science fiction, but we're closer to that than anyone thinks. Today, we're joined by Lehel Ferenczi, who is the managing director of GE Healthcare in Hungary. He's also specialized in data and analytics. And we're going to talk about how these advancements are already shaping the future of healthcare. Welcome to InnoStars Talks, Lehel.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So let's kick off with the first question. But this first question is going to be slightly different. I'd like to ask you about one aspect of digital healthcare that isn't being discussed enough, but really should be. And what I mean is especially, things that are taking place, are happening around as we push for more innovation in the field of digital healthcare. What should that be? What would that be?
Okay. Let me reflect. This is a great question. And why this is a great question? Because we hear everywhere AI, digitalization, but in fact, there are still some additional problems or fields which would deserve more attention. And let me bring here the interoperability, which is let's say it's an old problem still, but before going to AI, I think we should also think about how these all new technologies and even the existing technology and the different system, and we have inhomogeneous system usually in the hospitals. This should be connected. So interoperability is still a challenge of our days, and I think that should get more attention. So there are a lot of standardization and interoperability actions that I can mention here, like the connectathon, which is for engineers, where the different vendors can try their systems. But unfortunately, when we go to the hospital, the reality is that we see still systems which are not connected, and we are seeing clinicians struggling to connect the two systems. And basically, the interoperability is about data transfer, that how the data from one system can be moved to the other system. So solving these problems can already give a much better patient outcomes, more efficient workflows, and can amplify the benefits of the current clinical institutions and can basically pave the road to the digital healthcare.
Do you have one tip,
Yeah.
perhaps that would kind of lead towards that,
Yeah, I think
best
it's
case?
that the vendors should follow the standards, and on the same time, on the hospital side, I would expect that having a system, it would be really good to connect all the systems together and have an ecosystem where the information, once the patients enter to the hospital, antiquates all the information to follow the patient across multiple systems. So that would be a very desired situation. And I have one
And
more. Sorry.
so one more question, a follow-up question here. But who do you think should or has the ability to make that change? Maybe there's one actor that could do that.
I would say the information technology team inside the clinical institutions. And what we see that usually when GE Healthcare as a company comes and let's say we are deploying a device, then we are pushing that this device to be connected, and usually this connection then happens. But normally should be that this interoperability to be used as a goal from the beginning, I
It
would
should
say.
happen
Yeah,
regardless. And you
regardless. Exactly.
mentioned you had one more thing that
Yes.
has to be talked
And
about.
I'm sharing that these ideas came from 10 years back when I was visiting Oxford in UK, and since then I'm following this track. And when we asked that what is the biggest challenges what they have, and this is valid for all the other hospital and clinical institutions, they mentioned the biggest problem is interoperability, second is automation, third is patient centric. So if we follow this track. I think we can make our patients to have a better healthcare experience in the clinical institutions, and also obviously the outcome would be much better. So I think automation should cover, for example, the administrative tasks when the patient comes to the hospital, basically how the data of the patient is entered, and then this to flow across the order later in the order devices, and practically to follow across the clinical workflow. Also, what I think it would be important to connect the remote monitoring systems to the hospital system, because sometimes the patients have wearable devices and the information to flow in. And as the AI, and we will speak a lot about AI, comes in the picture, AI can handle all this information, and together making this information collecting for the patients, it will be a multimodal data, multimodal environment, and practically all will have to have a better diagnosis and better treatment for the patients. And I think also part of this would be the patient engagement as well, that make the patients aware that if they are providing their data, they are opening, for example, if it's in the cloud, if it's a different system, or if it's on a CD, to ring with them. And because the data which comes from other hospital can be very useful. So that's how I see it. And I would let the AI for the later parts. So
So you've already mentioned AI, and you know it's absolutely incredible to think about how fast healthcare changes with AI. And one of the key drivers of this transformation is artificial intelligence. And but what does it mean for patients? You know, in sort of real terms. Can you share a specific example where AI already made a significant impact on diagnosis or treatment?
Yeah, let me start obviously from our perspective, from our team in Hungary. So our team was formed as an AI team in 2017. In 2018, we joined the GE AI organization, and one of our first projects was on the pneumothorax detection. It was on X-ray and to detect if the patient has a pneumothorax. And what happened here, that we had a very nice story, that when we were evaluating and working with this AI with one of our partners, a patient who came for routine examination, and the AI was checked, it was detecting that the patient might have some serious problem, and practically it was asked to stay in the room, and the radiologist, and it was checked, and it was confirmed. But there are other examples. What we can say, that when mostly the first AI algo is developed based on deep learning. Other example is the breast cancer detection, that which can assist the radiologist doing when they are reviewing the hundreds and thousands of images. Obviously, the radiologists are humans and they might be tired, and where the AI can help to highlight and to find if there is any anomaly, and to bring into the attention of the radiologist and to the doctor, that even on the multitude of images, if something is abnormal, then can help. So we have such a solution, for example, breast cancer, where it can reduce the detection of the and it can increase the detection, and can reduce the false and false positives, for example, and have a more accurate diagnosis. And I was speaking only about diagnosis. Let me speak about another aspect. We have a solution also where we contributed. It is about ultrasound devices. So we know that the modern ultrasound devices usually need a skilled operator. So you should know how to place the head of the ultrasound and to make the optimal image. And also this requires experience, multiple years of experience. But if we want that the ultrasound device to be more accessible for the multiple patients, multiple operators, the idea was to let make it smart, the device itself. What would this mean? That, for example, a novice or a not so well experienced operator can place the head of the ultrasound, then an image will be generated. We have a database of thousands of images, and that image which is acquired will be matched to the database. And then it will give an answer to the operator that you should tilt, you should move somewhere in other position. Basically, the device itself, it will instruct the operator how to make the
How to
imaging.
do it.
And this is, I think, it's the future, to recognize the patients, set the devices in an optimal condition for the acquisition, and do the acquisition kind of automated, or in a how to say that, guiding the operator for what to do in the next steps. So I think this is the future, and usually I'm joking that we can imagine in the future that a CT scan would be like if you go in the subway, you take a picture for your ID. Maybe in the future that can be an experience that you go for a CT acquisition, and basically it will scan you, recognize you, and set all the parameters required for the optimal acquisition. So that these are some examples, very early examples what we faced, and I think
Perfect.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. I remember last year I was facilitating a panel discussion about digital health. I think it was in Macedonia, in North Macedonia, and I asked the audience who would trust, a diagnosis produced by AI and who wouldn't. And roughly, perhaps I would say 1/3 would say I would be okay with that, and roughly 2/3 would say, I would be a bit hesitant. And I think I'm not saying that these numbers are relevant for the entire market, but we can say that there are quite a few people that would still be hesitant, and there are quite a few people that would already be okay with it. Where do you see the biggest resistance when it comes to AI adoption, and how do you think we could overcome it?
I think if you look at the AI as a black box, and I would say it's something new, it's unknown, then obviously that will be a resistance. So obviously, where I will reach, it's to make trust. I think we should explain, and this is where the AI explainability, this is a non-term, comes into the picture. And even more, I need to mention that in European Union from 2026, this will be an expectation that no AI medical device can be deployed without explainable, and to making clear for the user, for the customers, how the decision was made. And again, I prefer to come with examples, if I can, that from our past, that when we did this pneumothorax detection, we have data from two sources, from a mobile X-ray and from a static X-ray. And what happened, and this is also part of our learning curve, that most of the patients with pneumothorax cases come from the mobile X-ray. That's a very good example how to not choose your data, but we were at the beginning. We started to teach the model, and we had very, very nice accuracy results from the beginning. And we started to think that it's too easy and too good results, and let's try to visualize which are those parts of the images based on which the AI makes the decision and can detect so accurately that it's a patient with pneumothorax or not. And the big surprise, when we did a heat map, there was an annotation on top of the images with coming from the mobile X-ray. And basically, the AI was learning not the disease and anomaly, but was learning that if there is a label on the image, oh, that's very probably. So I think this explains a lot of things, that it's a lesson for the data scientists, that to correctly choose the data based on what you are training, to have the right variety inside the data from multiple aspects like patient anatomy, physics of the image acquisition, and also the workflow, the process, how the image is acquired, patient, how it's positioned, what objects are lying on the patient. So I think I not will tell more explainability, make it transparent to the users based on what features, what attributes the AI is making the decision, and then we can make the customers to trust the AI. Obviously, Yeah, so just to mention that there are some other
Mhm.
aspects like the privacy, and also there are some fears that the AI will take the work of the current clinicians. I would say that this is not true, because we take, but we give more time basically to be with the patients. I think this is how we should look at the AI.
It sounds very fair. Sounds like a fair approach. When we look at G Healthcare, the company is at the forefront of digital transformation in healthcare. Can you share the key pillars of your digital strategy and how they align with the evolving needs of the sector of the industry of the healthcare industry?
Yeah, so G strategy. We believe that with the use of the AI, we can improve the care pathways, the diagnostics, the treatment, and the prediction. So I would like to highlight these three that usually when the
Mhm.
patient goes to hospital and would like to be cured to be a healthy citizen. Basically, first of all, the diagnosis is very important. So to have a good diagnosis, we need good devices and also good processes. Then the second, I would say, the treatment should be specified for the and patient-centric and customized to the patient, and to treat the patient according to his parameters, I would say. And the third, the prediction, to in the future to predict and to avoid basically the patient to be
Prevent, yeah.
prevent. And for this, G developed a D3 strategy, what is named as device, data, and digital. And and I already mentioned that the pillars of this uh, uh, strategy about devices, data, and digital is that we should have smarter devices where the device themselves, as I mentioned, can recognize the patient, can do the best acquisition, do the right acquisition based on the prescription. And then the data, we always speak the data is the new oil, but the data, if it's not utilized, it's no value. So the data what is
Mm.
generated should be utilized, and also what we are always highlighting, to have multimodal and longitudinal data, because then you can see that how the patient evolves and how the treatment evolves across the care pathway. And the digitalization, it's a must. Without digitalization, we cannot basically work with this large amount of data and the new trends in the technology, the AI. It's a pillar which can help us to be more effective and to have a better patient experience.
Mhm. And when we think about it, innovation is obviously essential, but there are regulatory and security challenges that we also have to bear in mind. How do you balance the drive for technological advancement and the needs for compliance and
Yeah,
security? I'm talking about GE Healthcare.
yeah. GSK being a device manufacturer healthcare company with the trend to move from being just a device company to cover all the healthcare health pathway provide health pathway solution. So obviously we keep our focus to be compliant, to comply with all the regulations, the regional and country regulation. And here I can mention the US federal laws, the FDA is controlling in Europe also with 27 countries, some of the countries having also regional regulation, but Japan, China, all the countries have this regulatory bodies. And when we are working, we are following the standards, we are following the regulatory expectations. So we are always deploying uh, to have a solution which complies with the regulatory expectation, and also to ensure the ethical conduct.
Mhm.
Second, I would mention the security. I mentioned that there is a fear due to the AI. What we need to keep in focus is the security of the patient data. So never the patient data can uh, go into hands of unwanted people. So basically, it should be always stored securely. When it's transferred to other system, should be secured. And this is a strategy for GE Healthcare that across the world patient life cycle to keep the data secure and to use the latest and best solution. And here I need to mention that many hospitals still trying to use the data in their on-prem, basically inside the hospital in their data center, thinking that how secure is their data. Unfortunately, I have bad news that uh, in fact the cloud vendors have a much stronger and much better security systems and policies. And I think in the future this trend will change, and more hospitals and more clinical institutions, I think in US and then Europe worldwide, will go to the cloud solution because this can assure the patient safety. I think also that we need to be very transparent and also to report and make it transparent how our systems are working. If there is any vulnerability problem, then to report it and take the actions in the time. And always to stay at the head and follow the innovation and incorporate the latest and greatest solution. For example, I need to mention that with the quantum computing coming more and more a reality, I see that will be also a threat on the patient safety and patient data safety. And I think we should follow this trend as well in the future, because those solutions, those computers will be basically able to bankrupt out, so basically to open the current security codes very easily. So that's where we need to focus in the future.
So I can see this sort of constant struggle between, innovation and making sure that patients' data and security is in place. When you look at GE Healthcare, the company has been working with EIT
Yes,
Health
yeah.
for quite some time already, and there's been quite a few innovative projects. How has this partnership contributed to driving digital healthcare, and specifically, how has it helped in the development of the company's key initiatives?
Okay, so let me, I need to jump back basically to 2017, if I remember, when was the first initiative what we see from EIT has. And we were in a stage that we had some good ideas, and I need to mention the project it's about MR segmentation for radiation therapy. And this was on the priority list for GE Healthcare, but not on the top. But we discussing and having feedbacks from clinical partners, they mentioned that even if it's not today's most top priority, but very soon it will become a must. Because I have to mention a bit that why it's so important. Today, most of the radiation therapies require CT. CT is required due to the density information, and then when the dose calculation is done, you should know how the beams will penetrate inside the patient, how the beams will be deviated, and what will be finally the dose which will reach the different organs and basically the tumors as well. But there is a problem with the CT that it's measured density, and some organs which have the soft tissues, typically the organs have a similar density, but if you look with MRI, for example, then you can see the inner structure much better. And what does it mean, the MRI for the radiation therapy? It's a higher precision, basically. And that's why I think the future of the radiation therapy will be the MR-based radiation therapy. So what we did, we had this idea, and seeing that it's a priority but not the priority, we applied for the grant. And even during because we applied, and after that was a committee who was interviewing and trying to understand that why is really it's an important topic. Then how I'm explaining now, I explain that this is today, but that will be tomorrow. And if we want to Europe and we want to adopt these higher standards, we should switch to MR. And luckily, they understood. We won this grant, which took 3 years, We had 3 partners across Europe in Newcastle. I think I can mention it was Newcastle, Erasmus in Rotterdam, and one hospital in Szeged, Hungary. And what we see also that was very good to see that how these hospitals being in 3 parts of Europe started to collaborate and started. There was no standards, no guidelines for MRI, how to treat, and they started to develop the guidelines. They started to collaborate. And what is more important, I need to mention that thanks to this opportunity, these hospitals, these partners improved their protocols, the current protocols. They increased higher density for the slices, higher field of view, seeing better, and also they improved, they applied a much higher rigor. And so what was the outcome? Patients got a much better treatment basically at the end. So let's try to being short. We developed this solution. Hopefully this will become a product this year. So it's a long journey, as you can see, that until we validate, we get to the regulatory. But now this is a kind of the star of the products inside GE Healthcare. Everyone it's applauding us that this is a nice solution, and we are very proud that we developed. Other example, let me just to try to very shortly give another. It's the ultrasound example, which is that smart ultrasound obstetrics in gynecology. What does it mean? It's basically to detect the fetal disorder. Based on my private experience, when my wife was expecting our baby to born, we were asked to do biopsy and to do an X-ray scan. I think that's the nightmare for a new family, that your baby to have a biopsy from the baby, not from the baby, but from the mother, and also to have an X-ray, because X-ray it's harming. Now with ultrasound, basically this process with ultrasound and with blood check, this can be replaced. So this is the future. And as I explained before, that having a smart device with an ontology, the ontology basically, if there is a symptom, if there is a potential for anomaly, then it will drive the operator across multiple measurements, and basically 80 measurements can be made across the during this process. Not always 80 are required, but for specific anomaly, 5, 6, it depends. And based on that, it can detect if the baby which we born, the fetus, it has any anomaly or not, and obviously can make the families happy that everything is all right. And this was again a very good opportunity for us. We applied for a grant for EIT. We won this grant, and then we can collaborate again with, if I remember, with 12 institutions across Europe. And I need to mention one of them was the Sorbonne University from Paris, and they were the clinical leader. And it was an opportunity for us to get access to cutting edge knowledge and to develop a solution which will be utilized soon across Europe. And I need to mention that we are working on the productization of this solution as well. So these are 2 examples. Maybe third, Hello AI, which is, I would say, it's a side effect of science solution. As we learned AI, we collected a lot of materials, and one of our colleagues, a doctor, told that, may I ask these materials to learn also AI? And while he was learning, he realized that if he can learn and we can learn, why we are not opening this opportunity to other doctors? And then we applied for a support from EIT Health, and this is the famous Hello AI project, which runs across 9 years. Since I think this is the 9th year when we'll be running. And first we targeted the medical students, after we targeted the healthcare professional, and basically now, as I know, it's open and can be enrolled. And I can mention that the other journey of this solution is that inside GE Healthcare, we want to make it as a training for the internal engineers who want to learn AI. So these are the 3 success stories what we had. And
if I can ask you, what do you think the role of organizations such as EIT health is in ensuring, that the need of innovators from Central and Eastern Europe, from Hungary and countries around Hungary, are heard at the EU level, and are kind of brought to reality.
So there are multiple factors which came into play. First of all, I mentioned the connection, the collaboration between multiple regions, and it was so nice to see that when the doctors sitting together and discussing and really seeing that Europe as a community, that even if these three countries were involved, but trying to shape the future of radiation therapy for Europe from different sides. I think this is one aspect. I think the other aspect is that the professions which are bring together the industry, the academia, and the clinic and the healthcare knowledge. So these three pillars are usually required by the ITS, and I think this is a good combination, because then each part brings the best of the knowledge, and very quickly we can develop good solution. And usually what I mentioned, that to getting access to this knowledge, if G as a company we would go on it would require much more time. But having this consortia set up and working on a specific topic, it's a good accelerator. And I think then that this is also an opportunity to channel the innovation into the focus and to create products for the future and solution, and at the end the patients will benefit from this. I think that's the most important.
So today we were talking about AI quite a bit, so I want to close our discussion with a question about AI. I know that talking about AI is really trying to read a crystal ball, because things are developing so fast. So maybe let me ask you a slightly different question about the future of AI. What kind of solutions would you like to see perhaps in the next few years' time that could be developed with the help of AI?
Yeah, thank you. So I think a bit touched my dream of the vision, what I said, that automated devices and patient-centric and prediction, and have these three steps, that the better diagnostic, better treatment, and prediction for the future. So what I think I envision that the AI to help us, because today we are citizens, tomorrow we might be patients, to when we get to have early prediction as much possible in the future. Practically, maybe we are going to a routine scan, and to have an AI which is screening not only the specific, let's say I'm going for the lung scan, and because it's required, I don't know, for each 2 years to go and to have a routine check, and that AI can identify even very small nodules inside the lung, and then to give a warning. And early detection means life, obviously, and means that it can be an effective treatment. And also, thanks to the AI, I think, as I mentioned, can be a more enhanced diagnostic compared. And I'm not criticizing the doctors, but because AI is trained with the knowledge from the doctors, and practically what we can bring. Imagine that the best of the best close to the device and to each small department, maybe in a village, maybe in a rural region, and to have the knowledge of the top scientist, I would say. So that's the beauty. Telehealth, I think the connecting, I mentioned already, the telehealth, to have everyone has smartphones, watches, and also dedicated health devices. So I think that they can already provide some early signs. And as AI is progressing, for example, we see that from the skin, from the how we move, can make some early detections, and I think that is important. Or, for example, detecting the mental disorders earlier, and because as the population is aging, that's also a threat for Europe and for the other countries, that population is aging, and more patients are diagnosed with Alzheimer, with Parkinson, and these mental disorders, and there are really good solutions which can detect by cognitive test. I mentioned predictive analytics, and I think that what I also mentioned is the engagement of the patients, the AI to be accepted and to make us cognitive, that with the help of the AI, our health condition can be screened and can be made better. And maybe the AI can how to say, prescribe us what to eat, how much to move, what should be our lifestyle in the future. So that's
So I hear three things. I hear prevention, I hear accessibility, and I hear connectivity. So
yes.
hopefully these three areas, will be something that AI will help us with within the next few years. Lehel, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate that, and best of luck for all the ideas that GE Healthcare has that help patients. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a nice day. It was my pleasure. Bye.